What's going on, Lakers fans, and welcome into episode 35 of the Lake Show Flow. I am your host, Gio. As the Lakers have won their 7th in a row, for real this time, I misspoke in the last video, and I realized it after it had been up already, so I just lived with the mistake. But the Lakers have now won their 7th game in a row, setting a season high in points scored with 136 to the Pelicans 115. Before we get into the show, though, I just want to say if you're new here or you've been here, please show some support to the channel. Leave a like on the video, comment, share it with your friends. And if you are one of the ones that is new, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. So, as I said, the Lakers continue to stay hot. They beat another team that on paper they're just supposed to beat. And I didn't know who was going to play this game. I figured, Luka should play all week, like I said in the last video. I know LeBron, he seemed a little slower last game. Didn't really have that issue this time, as he and Luka made history in their own right, as he hits 50,000 career points with the playoffs and the regular season combined. An all-around impressive number as he continues to extend the crazy points. Like, no one's going to catch that. I don't know. Maybe someone ends up doing it, but they would have to have one of the most successful careers. Like, that's talking, Wemby already lost the rest of this season, so he could be in jeopardy of not doing that. LeBron really hasn't had a season where he's been out the way Wemby ended up being out. So this is going to be a tough record for anybody to catch, and he's just in a league of his own. He's pretty much created, as Jovan Buha said on his podcast after this game, he said that LeBron basically created the 50K club because it didn't exist before. So an exclusive club, we'll see if anyone could catch that. But he makes his history in his own right. And then Luka the Don, Luka Magic, whatever you want to call him, makes his own history, Laker history, being one of the only 4 players in Laker history to have 30-plus points and 15-plus assists in a game. And it's elite company. It's not like we had anyone sneak in there that didn't belong. It's not like that meme of the Dragons where there's 2 badass ones and one of them just goofy as hell. No, he's in elite company. We got Jerry West there. We got his current teammate, LeBron James, and Irvin Magic Johnson, who he gets his nickname Luka Magic from. So just a historic night, a beatdown of the ages, it could have been worse, honestly. If the Lakers hit even more shots, if they have even the most impressive part is they didn't have Reeves or Rui or the dog that is Jordan Goodwin. We didn't have 3 of our key rotation guys, and they still hang 136. A few more threes in there from Reeves and Rui, and imagine what that score could be, right? They did allow Zion to penetrate the paint quite a bit. He ended up scoring a lot in the paint. He was pretty comfortable in this game, 37 points on 17 for 23, so it could be a concern. I'll touch on that as we move forward in this, but like I said, just an impressive win not having Reeves, Rui, or Goodwin. And it was the Jackson Hayes, I wouldn't say revenge game because he only had like a revenge half. He went off for 19 points all in the first half. He didn't score again in the second, but they did kind of focus on him a lot more, trying to prevent the lobs that he was getting. He was eating. And Luka Doncic, he just set the tone early. He was hot. He hit 3 threes in a row. He was dancing and skipping on the sidelines. I don't even know what those Slovenian dance moves he was doing, but he was going. He was feeling good. He was feeling himself, and he was going crazy. So it just feels good. I feel like every single game we've seen Luka just starting to take more control of the offense, and even when defenses adapt, Luka's just answered every single time, just like JJ Redick. He said that Luka's basically solved every riddle that's been put in front of him, every puzzle. And it shows because obviously once Luka starts to get in a groove, every team just starts to kind of blitz him. But he just dissects that. LeBron started feeding off of Luka. Most of his offense, because he ends up with 34 points, right? So LeBron was obviously scoring a lot too, which is great to see him bounce back, especially against a team like the Pelicans who don't really have a good offense. But the offense is starting to pretty much feed off of Luka, and he's taking over the reins of being the primary ball handler. All of the actions are running through him. They pretty much prioritize getting him comfortable in a position to score, and if he can't do that, if the defense is adapting to his scoring, then he's dishing it out, and guys are getting those buck-naked, wide-open shots that Dorian Finney-Smith talked about. And it seemed like LeBron James, from the jump, every single time that Luka gave him a pass, it seemed like LeBron was scoring on the outside. So it's like Luka's got like Hall of Fame Dimer. If you play 2K, you know what I'm talking about. Shout out to my boy Joe. He's probably going to be listening to this. He knows what I'm talking about. They even have a new rarity. I think it's called Legend. So he might have that red one, that fucking Legend Dimer is what Luka might have, because every single time he was dishing it, it seemed like people were scoring. He did kind of struggle with some turnovers in the first half. He was 9 assists and 5 turnovers. But then in the second half, he cleaned all that up, and he had 6 assists with 0 turnovers. And we're just starting to see that Dallas Luka. He's getting into it with refs on a normal basis, but it seems like it fires him up. And that's another thing that Jovan touched on his podcast. It seems like he feeds off of it. Like he needs to be, talking crap to the refs about some no calls. He actually had one where it was kind of scary. I didn't know if he was going to keep going. It seemed like maybe he hurt his back or he might have got concussed. It was a near miss. Like, honestly, it was pretty scary, but he got up, he continued to play. He didn't really affect him the rest of the game, but he was in those refs' face. And that's just an aspect to who Luka is as a player. And like I said, it just fires him up, and it makes it seem like he pretty much feeds off of it and starts to play even harder. So even after that happened, he plays the second half, continues to set this tone, continues to, dish out assists, and LeBron just continued greatness. It's just crazy. Like, for him to have a down game in the last one with only 17 points, and he didn't hit that 50K because he needed 18 in that game, and then to come back and score 34 points with 8 rebounds and 6 assists, like, I don't even know what to say. Like, words can't really do justice. You just have to see it. Like, seeing LeBron still be able to play, and then he has a teammate like Luka, who it feels like everyone's been saying it, but it seems like Luka's going to extend LeBron's career. Like, imagine how much fun it is to play with a guy like this, and then also knowing that you're not responsible to have the ball all the time. You got Luka, you got Reeves. Seems like just I'm in an echo chamber of saying the same thing when it comes to this big three that the Lakers pretty much have right now. And it's because it's true. You see the result of LeBron not having to focus so much on offense and then not have enough to give on defense. Now he's giving like way more effort on the defensive end, and it seems like he's getting blocks, he's getting steals every single game. And even Luka, who everyone, like I said, everyone always doubted his defense, but he had 1 steal and 1 block, and obviously it's not the craziest numbers, but we played a team that, he didn't have to go off on defense. The team didn't have to go off on defense in order to win this game. The offense just took over and scored that 136 that I mentioned. And when it comes to Luka too, I feel like I was listening to another shout out to Jovan again, but he had, I don't know if anyone knows who this is, but Raj Shapulu. I might have butchered his last name, but he has such a good basketball mind, and he basically said what I said, that Luka takes his brain, like that supercomputer brain that people talk about with him being the player that he is on offense. He takes that when he goes across the half court, and that's why he's able to read these pass lanes. And that's what I said a couple episodes ago. It seems like when you're that good of a passer, there's no reason not to be able to read these passes before they end up being delivered, right? So to me, that's something that just shines in Luka's game, just him being able to have that IQ and being able to get those passes, get into those lanes, see things before the offense thinks that a defender would see it. And that's an underrated part of his game, because obviously we lose, Anthony Davis, a generational defender, and somehow the Lakers are just leading in so many different categories. This is insane. There's a graphic they put up, right? It's talking about the Lakers defense. Since January 15th, in defensive rating, opponents' points per game, opponents' field goal percentage, and opponents' that's a tongue twister. Opponents' points in the paint, the Lakers are first in all those defensive categories, and they're 5th in opponents' 3-point field goals made. So clearly, the defense, it's all about effort. It's all about schemes. Nate McMillan, I gave him a shout out in the last video. JJ Redick being the voice of this team and the leader. It is all coming together at a perfect time, honestly, because the Lakers don't have a cakewalk the rest of the way. They already played the Knicks on Thursday, and then they played the defending champions, the Lakers' rivals, the Boston Celtics, on Saturday. And the following week, they end up with that crazy week of hell where they got to play 6 games. And I think I was saying 7 days, but they play 6 games in 8 days. Either way, a schedule from hell. They got to do 3 back-to-backs in that span. And it's going to be a challenge, and I don't know who's going to rest. I hope Luka's able to play in most of the back-to-backs, because I feel like putting all that pressure on LeBron to play by himself, and obviously Reeves could be back, and Rui is going to be big if he can come back. That would be nice. We have Reeves on a day-to-day right now, so he could be back as soon as Thursday, hopefully by Saturday at the latest. But we're going to need pretty much all our chips on the table to be able to get these wins and to be able to compete. And it's going to be a huge eye-opener on what this team is truly capable of, because you can't judge probably that back-to-backs, all that stuff. Depending who plays, you might not be able to judge it as clearly, but you're still going to be able to see a lot of these schemes at work, a lot of the depth at work, and seeing how effective it can all be, because it's going to be tough against Denver. If Zion was able to score in the paint, that's the point Jovan was making, was if Zion was able to go off in the paint, then what's stopping a guy like Jokic? What's stopping a guy like Giannis, who's even more similar to Zion? And that's scary because the Lakers' paint defense is something we've been concerned with, after the trade of AD, but somehow they've been able to stay afloat, and not only stay afloat, but also be the number one paint defense in the league after already playing a player like Jokic. So it's gonna make things a lot clearer. I'm not too concerned. I feel like, because there's a crazy stat too, Jackson Hayes has been the number one rated defensive center when it comes to rim protection since January 15th as well. I'm pretty sure that's the date that it was. But either way, if you're Jackson Hayes and had a voice crack there, sorry about that. But if you're Jackson Hayes and you're the top rated paint protector in the league at center, that speaks volumes. I mean, he's usually the last line of defense, and the Lakers do a good job of shielding him from having to get scored on inside, because you got a lot of guys rotating. You got a lot of guys crashing on certain players and fronting them. And, sometimes it's easy for him to just recover. And, he's pretty athletic in his own right. Like I told you guys before, he's basically been compared to like a wing because of the way he's so shifty, and he's not your typical center build, right? And that's probably what it really is, but we're going to see. Can you hold on to that title, Jackson? Can you play really good against these elite teams that we're going to be seeing soon? Because if Kristaps Porzingis on Saturday goes crazy, obviously his rating's going to go down. So we're going to see a lot, and see if they can still stop Karl Anthony Towns. They did a great job when they beat them in New York. Ironically, that was the night that they traded for Luka Doncic. So all these matchups are going to look different, especially the one against the Knicks, the one against Boston. And then when we play the Bucks and the Nuggets again, we're going to see what changes, what adaptations that team and that coaching staff is going to make. So we got a lot of answers to all these questions that we might have in terms of how good this team can be. Tonight, though, it's a celebratory mood. The Lakers get it done, set that season high of 136 points scored. Their streak of games in which they held opponents to 102 or less, that comes to an end. But most of the time, most of that was just like a lot of garbage time. The Lakers had a big lead by then, and the Pelicans bench players were just all trying to make a name for themselves, like they were Gambit or something, So it wasn't too much to be concerned about. And ironically, for me to even make that reference to, Gambit making a name for himself, we're playing the Pelicans, who are from Louisiana. So just a little irony there. But anyways, so I did want to talk about, because after this win, it feels great, but there was also Shams Charania. I've heard people say his name both ways, but he was on Pat McAfee's show today, and he had an interesting comment about Luka Doncic. And he mentioned that Luka he comes from Europe, and a lot of these European players, when they get drafted, they're big on loyalty, and they want to stay on whatever team drafts them. It's just something that they prioritize, something that they value is loyalty. And Luka said it himself, that he's big on loyalty. And Shams said that he basically didn't see himself leaving Dallas. He had just bought an expensive home, and so obviously it was the unexpected. Now he's in LA, but he said that loyalty, he's enjoying his time in LA. So he assumes and basically with those reports coming out that Luka is enjoying himself in LA, they're expecting his loyalty to basically carry over to LA. And that's just good news to hear, because we clearly don't want to lose Luka. And he also said that the way LA treats stars is larger than life. You can tell Luka's starting to embrace the Showtime aspect of things. It seems like he tries to make these flashy passes like every game and succeeds at it too. And then the showmanship that he did when he hit one of his step back threes, he's all dancing and skipping. Like I said, I don't know what those moves were, but he was moving, right? He was grooving. But that's just exciting to hear about. I think Luka's going to stay. I think Luka is being welcomed by these fans. And the most exciting thing about this stretch of games where he's starting to look like himself, the key word is he's starting to look like himself. We're not getting 95, 100% Luka just yet. And that is crazy. That's just disaster for the rest of the league. Disaster for any team that sees us in the playoffs. And I'm hyped as hell. Every time I get on this microphone, I've told you guys before, I could go on and on about what I think about this team. We're going to get more answers coming up in the next few games. It's exciting to think about because we'll see a lot more potential. I think the Knicks game and the Celtics game, and then depending on the health that we walk into these games with, we're going to see how this team stacks up against the elite of the elite. I believe we do play OKC again sometime down this last stretch, but the Lakers are looking good, man. The main thing here is the reason I was kind of skeptical about them actually holding on to the second seed, because it's one thing to claim it and be the second seed, which I didn't think that was impossible, but holding on to it and keeping it, that's the hardest test right there, because we've seen teams being in and out of that spot. We've seen, I think the Grizzlies were there, the Nuggets were there, and now the Lakers, and they've kind of just been playing hot potato with it. So luckily the Lakers have been winning, and then those two teams have collected some L's lately. So we'll see if the Lakers can continue to win against these top-tier teams. The schedule makers really had it out for the Lakers in terms of those back-to-backs next week. But for now, we celebrate this win. We feel good about it. And hopefully we get Reeves back in the next game, because that's going to be huge. That's our third best scorer. And I just think he plays too large of a role to, for us to keep winning without him, especially against elite teams. So I pretty much put a bow on it with this one. A little bit of a shorter episode based on, there wasn't, it was a fun game to watch because the team was going off. It was a fun game to see Luka getting back in his groove and bust out the dance moves, and Jackson have a huge half, and LeBron over here being 40 going on 20, as they say. And shout out to Dan, the Lakers fan, on that one. That was his quote. But it was just a fun game. It was an easy watch because your team is just getting shit done. And I couldn't be more excited about where this team is headed and the potential. I've been saying it. They are a bona fide championship contender. And argue with the wall on that one. Don't even talk to me if you don't think they are, because this team is good enough to win a championship. And yeah, it's just exciting as hell. So like I said, if you're new here or you've been here, please support this channel in any way. We appreciate all of that. And leave a like on the video, comments. Let's get a dialogue going in the comments. Honestly, I want to give a shout out to my co-host Joe, who I did get to talk to earlier. His wife was able to go visit him, and I'm just excited for him because he has that. His birthday just passed, so happy belated birthday to him. I did send you a text. You never responded to me, but that's a conversation for another day, fucker. But he's been super busy out there on his deployment. But shout out to him. I'm excited to get him back on this microphone with me. And your comment the other day when you said, let's keep it going, and, it hit me because, it's not always easy to find time sometimes to record these. But seeing that you told me that personally, I was like, all right, I got to keep it going for Joe. But anyways, like I said, we appreciate any and all support. And that's going to do it for today's episode of the Lake Show Flow. And we'll see you guys next time.